Hello, folks, and welcome to another Co-working Values podcast. So I'm really excited about this episode, as always, but I'd like to give a bit of background to it. So there's Contingent Works, which is run by Ewan, and it's in Bromley, and across the road there's Parisa, and she runs Greener and Cleaner. And Bromley is a borough in London, and it's where David Bowie was born, which is the most important part. But also, just before we did this, maybe a couple of weeks before we did this episode, Parisa was with the Actioners and folks explaining a lot of what is in this podcast also, and we can link to Actioners and in the show notes. So everything that goes on here in this episode has things you can link to outside, but basically it comes down to people in a local neighbourhood connecting with each other to build community and help each other through that journey of life and the cost of living crisis and saving the planet. And you don't need something global, as we keep saying. It is all to do with neighbourhoods, and that is something that came up very frequently at the Unreasonable Connection event at Blue Garage, and we'll be back in Space 4, link in the show notes to that, on the 19th of May for Unreasonable Connection. And every month we do an online hour-long get in Google Meet rooms and talk to each other, and all you do is talk and meet people like Parisa and Ewan and Teresa and lots of people who are guests on this podcast are part of that Unreasonable Connection ecosystem. You're very welcome. So let's get into the show. Hello folks, it is another Co-working Values podcast, and all the way from sunny Bromley. What's your name and what are you known for?
My name is Parisa Wright. I am the founder of community sustainability charity Greener and Cleaner, and I'm also the chair of the new Community Sustainability Support Network for England, which is launching this spring.
Ooh, okay. So because there's our universe is all collided in many different places. Can you? Because this is like the third time we've ever spoken in our lives, but like how do we know each other? Because I want everyone to leave this thinking like we're best mates and play golf at weekends, but how did our universes collide?
I don't know. I think we collided in lots of different ways. One of which is that we've been working a lot with John Alexander and Gavin at Reaction and the Citizenship Project. And recently we were on a Reaction spotlight around our sort of community hub space. And I think that was one of the ways that we connected. And another way was that one of our amazing trustees runs a really fantastic co-working space called Contingent Works in Bromley. And we're based here quite a lot. And I'm actually talking to you here now from Contingent Works.
Are you in
a nook? Yeah, I'm in a nook.
You've got to get the nook in, so David, if he listens to this, will go, oh, great. You know, it's not product placement, but I know it's a great place.
It's a great.
So can you explain, we're going to put links in the show notes to everything here. Like, I think it's very interesting about, you are in the Glades shopping mall in Bromley, and probably you should be there, but it works really well. Like there's a positioning thing, and then we'll get on to the Sustainability Action Network, which I probably said wrong because that's most relevant for co-working spaces.
Yeah, so I guess, yes, the first thing you touched on is that one of the things that we as a charity has been piloting for the last 4 years is taking over the vacant unit of a shopping centre, like a prominent vacant unit, not just a shitty rundown shopping centre, not just a shitty vacant unit that's awful and no one goes to, but a prominent vacant unit of a popular shopping centre, the Glades. And we were offered 3 units. We specifically chose one that was near a McDonald's, and we specifically chose one that was opposite public toilets, because for us, it started off as a community sustainability hub, and now it's very much a community hub. But all the way along, we've wanted to be able to engage everyone. And as you and I know, if you are especially trying to support people with health vulnerabilities, disabilities, with children, the elderly, they need to be near public toilets, changing stations, etc. And also ideally in somewhere that's quite accessible by public transport, by a private vehicle, with lifts, etc. And so that shopping centre and that particular unit are brilliant for that. It also allows people to go, yes, there's New Look, yes, there's whatever it is, I don't know, the Entertainer or whatever, but there's another option. And the other option is I can go and learn from other people in my community how to mend things, how to repair things, how to grow food, how to insulate my home, how to reduce my consumption, how to, improve the wildlife friendliness of my garden, of my school grounds, of my business's working grounds. And so it sort of gives people this, in this sort of sea, I guess, of retail rat race, it gives them an oasis of kind of like positivity, agency, community collaboration and connection. And really it's a space where people can come together and talk about the issues that they have in their community and see how they can solve them together, what skills, what knowledge, what resources we already have in our community. It's a sort of convening space and a facilitation space, as well as us, putting on our own bits and bobs. But when I say us, it's all just local people from Southeast London.
That is because it's all that stuff you described there. And as I went there last week, and as you walk past, basically it's like a shopping unit, a shop unit with a table in. And there's other stuff in there, of course. But that's all you need, isn't it? It's like,
look at the video, guys.
Yeah,
look at the video.
Guys. But it's like, you wouldn't expect it. I'm delighted to find it there. And, I've seen loads of things that are on that same frequency, but it's just, it looks so in place and so out of place. So the pattern interrupt, I think is what I'm going for, is shop lights. Oh, table with lots of people on. When I went there, they were doing a knitting class. It was 20 people sat around a table.
Yeah, I think that day I think they were leaving, but there's 30 people who usually come at that time. And they're a real range of ages, a real range of English as a first language, second language. Some people are just out of work for a bit, so they just want to do something else. Some people are going for their mental health. Some people are going for loneliness. Lots of different, some people are just really passionate about creativity and have nowhere else they can go to do it cheaply or for free. And I think that's a knit, stitch and crochet social. So people are teaching each other how to knit, crochet, sew. They'll bring along their own projects, and they always have a community project on the go. So there's usually a post-op box topper that they're all working on, or a big sort of quilt that they're all working on that's going to be displayed in the community. So, they can get involved in an individual level, on a connecting with other people level, and then on a community level, which is really cool. But I think for me, in a sort of sea of plastic and depressing news, it's kind of like this little floating buoy of hope in a shopping centre. It's like somebody said to me, a guy called Matt, who makes these amazing videos, said to me, it's like a hope hub, Parisa. You should call them hope hubs.
Matt Golding, conveniently, is the one before this podcast. So
there you go. There you go. He said you should call them hope hubs, Parisa, because they're like a ray of sunshine, and people can feel like they're not alone and that they can make a difference.
It's huge. It's hard. I'm obviously absolutely love it, but it's hard to. I've seen things like that over the years. People have tried to do things, and I think it must be easy. Is it easier to do that in a shopping centre nowadays? And if you tried to do that in 2018, would they go away because you're not a Vodafone shop or something? Thank you.
It was post-pandemic. So before the pandemic, we were working with that shopping centre on little pop-up events and stuff like that. Because from the moment that we started back at the beginning of 2019, we were we're not a talking shop. We're doing stuff with the community, by the community, for the community. And we did at least 2 or 3 public events every month. And so we did some stuff like that before the pandemic with the shopping centre. During the pandemic, they came to us and said, we want to put on this nature festival. Will you record some remote workshops around, putting in a pond, or, I don't know, sewing a whatever bug out of fabric or whatever it was. And so we sent over a bunch of videos of these workshops that they could use it in their nature festival remotely for the public. And then when we came back, they were like, how shall we collaborate together? And that's when the conversation happened. And that's when our now CEO, Claire, negotiated with them to get that space and to sort of sort out the terms for it. I think there are have been in the past, lots of things like this, but what there hasn't been has been something that's been 5 days a week and that is meeting all different areas of sustainability, but all different areas of community need as well. So there's employability, there's language skills, there's mental health, there's physical health, there's cost of living, there's loneliness, there's education, there's all those things going on. And I'd say 50% of people come in for those other reasons, and then they go on a journey around nature and reducing waste and reducing emissions and things like that, which is really exciting. But yeah, I think they give you footfall, those spaces, and they're not being used more and more on our high streets and in our shopping centres. There are vacant units, but they're still part of town centres. In some areas, those town centres no longer exist. So many of those, so many of those shop units have been vacant for so long. So little has been done. But this is another thing that, as opposed to the retail experience, is very experiential. You can't just do it online. You can talk to a real human being. You can come out of the misinformation and the sort of divisive bubble that is social media and actually come and have a conversation with someone and say, I don't understand why they're extending ULEZ. It seems insane to me. And then someone else can go, okay, well, these are some of the things that it's supposed to benefit us as individuals here in this borough. This is some of the ways that you can ask for change. These are some of the things that are coming down the line that you might like or might not like. And so it's not about saying to people, oh, you must have to have this view or that view, but for someone to be able to have a conversation and say, where can I get funding for this? Or why is this happening? Or what's coming down the line on this with another person from their community is so powerful now in these really, really heated political times and cultural times. It's just really important to have those spaces.
It is unbelievably hard to connect with people locally. Like when our son's 14 now, but when we lived in sunny Ilford, which is nearly as good as sunny Bromley, when we got to know more people in that area when we became parents, because you have to bump into people, and we kind of just knew our friends in our area, but we got to experience it. And I remember when I was a lad, we just knew everybody. There was like churches and synagogues and community centres, and the way people went to the pub was different. There was a lot more connection. I'm going to go, before I start reminiscing, one of the main reasons, I know we're like 10 minutes in, but I feel like we've set the scene now. There is loads of good juice that you're doing, and it's like an extension of co-working, and we're inviting people to show the actionism screening documentary. Really fluffed that up. Sorry, guys. And people have been showing that documentary in their co-working spaces, and they invite people around, and they do panels, and that showing that in a neighborhood space or a co-working space instigates a conversation that I deeply believe, because I've done so many events in co-working spaces, that you wouldn't have happened anyway. And the type of thing you just described there, when people come together who aren't freelancers or serial entrepreneurs, they're just like people from the community who may do those things, is really important. And what I think is available from what you're building now is another layer on top of that. It's like an even more practical application of all that malarkey. So do you remember when we were talking before we came on, we need to reverse engineer that. So
yeah,
why is it a good idea?
Wait, one thing, so basically, I think if you run a co-working space or you're involved in co-working spaces, you might be interested in hearing our perspective on how these sorts of charities... You don't need to
do all the might, like they are, like they...
Projects,
like just...
We want to collaborate with projects like ours. So basically, there's lots of different things, but often a co-working space doesn't necessarily wants to do lots of things, right? You want to go and make the environment better locally. You want to help people with cost of living. You want to help people in lots of different ways. You don't have the capacity of running that space. What you can do, however, is partner with local charities like ours. So like we're lucky Ewan is actually a trustee of ours, and he runs Contingent Works, but also he does partner with other charities as well. And, you can give those charities, you might not be able to give them money, donations for what they're doing, but what you can do is give them support in various ways, which then means that you are effectively helping achieve those things in your community. So, for example, you can give them membership for free or as a discounted rate. You can give them day passes. You can give them access to, podcast studios, meeting rooms, et cetera, et cetera. And those things make a huge difference because often they have no paid staff or they have very few paid staff. And actually the mental health of those paid staff and the impact and efficiency of those paid staff is really important. And actually what makes a huge difference is access to a co-working space to those people. So by doing that, you are helping with that community allotment garden. You're helping with that repair cafe. You're helping with, the Greener and Cleaner Community Hub or whatever the project is locally that you are helping with by giving that access to that space. Then in turn, if they want to get their word out, like we do a community tech reuse project, right? So people from their local community and local businesses can give us their old phones, their old laptops, their old iPads, and we have a partner company that comes in pro bono, takes out the hard drives, returns them, and basically updates them. And then we get them out to people who are digitally excluded in the community or schools who desperately need more equipment kind of thing. So those phones, those laptops, those iPads are going back out into the community. They may be old, but they still serve a purpose. For a lot of people, they just need the basics. And so they get that update and then they get back into the community. Now, how do we get the word out on that? Or on our energy project, where we give people advice around how to reduce their bills and improve their energy efficiency. How do we get the word out? Lots of ways, but Contingent Works, for example, as a co-working space that we partner with, can get and does get the word out to its members in-house. And so when it shares this project, or you can donate, your tech to here to see it go somewhere safely, or you can get this free service around energy or whatever, when they share that, then their members see, this is like a visual reminder that our co-working space is investing into the community, is partnering with these organizations that do these things. And it also tells them about a cool activity or project they can get involved in, right? For their CSR, for their own, values. So it works really well on 2 levels. And then obviously groups like ours, so we, for example, do carbon literacy training days, we do climate Fresk training, we do lunch and learns, and we can collaborate with, and others like us can collaborate with co-working space to put that on in the co-working space for members. And if there's some obviously, usually these things get paid for. So if we go out to, let's say, I don't know, Bupa or Barclays or do this, you're talking, the range we would charge a big corporate in London is like $1,500 to $2,500 to do a lunch and learn. Now, obviously, if we're working with a local co-working space, we're not doing it on that kind of financial basis. We're doing it to cover our costs, but it gives people access to something at a much cheaper rate, which is great training. And sustainability, as an example, is a really good thing to have on the CVs of your staff. It's a really good way to invest in their personal development. And you as a contractor, it's a really great way to boost your CV, because actually in this day and age, everyone needs to have a good sense of what sustainability means for them and their organization. So that's another thing. That's that training partnership element, which is potential and possible, and guest speaking, that sort of thing. And then finally, also you can provide that gateway as a co-working space to charities and projects like ours. But also, you could say, right, our main focus is we have to have one on sustainability. I recommend everyone to have some sort of sustainability project locally. Could be nature, could be a repair cafe, could be community fridge, something to do with the environment, so that you are working, even if you're not, obviously you should do as much as you can on your energy, on your waste, on your food, on your transport. But this is a way to do something to help the community achieve their aims on it as well. So partner with one of those. And if you can, partner with 1 or 2 other charities that are meeting real needs locally to you, and perhaps that intersect with the needs and the concerns of your members. And with those groups, try and pick out and sort of get them to share with you volunteering opportunities, not just for the Christmas fair, yes, for the Christmas fair, but volunteering opportunities that can be done in person, locally to that co-working space, but also volunteering opportunities that can be done remotely. So that could be designing a poster, that could be a bit of marketing advice, that could be helping create a video, whatever it is. Because providing that opportunity, that is an opportunity that people, when they're working in a big organization, will be given. They'll be given volunteer days, these are some different ways that you can get involved in our CSR, and this is some different ways you can give back to your community and have some personal development. But as a co-working space, you can provide that bridge to the people that you're working with. So A, it's helping our community hub or our community allotment garden that we run, but B, it's also giving an opportunity to those people to find out more about those projects and actually do something with their community, connect more with their Contingent Works communities or their co-working community, but also connect more with the local community that they're based in and feel like they're giving back, despite the fact that maybe they run a tiny business or they're a contractor for other people, et cetera, working from home, whatever it is. So I think that's lots of different levels of embedding this partnership in a really practical, non-expensive for you way that can make a massive difference to both the community projects and charities that are going on, especially around the environment, but also to your members and the value they're getting out of being connected to your space and being part and feeling part of that community. So yes, it's brilliant. If you are doing a project like a community energy project, you're doing one of those, amazing. You're doing a community fridge, amazing. You're doing a lending library where you book swap or whatever, or you have a Christmas jumper swap at the Christmas time, or you have a repair cafe. You might have a repair cafe based in your space. There are lots of amazing examples of co-working spaces that are doing all sorts of stuff. They're running their own community gardens. They have repair cafes based out of them. They have energy clinics going on them once a month. They have all sorts of things that they're doing themselves and that they're collaborating with other charities to deliver within their space. And that's brilliant. But if you can't do that, then at least do that partnership work, right? That signposting work, that connection work that adds so much value and gives people a bit of respite in terms of access to a co-working space, but also that connection to your members and them. If you are doing some sort of community sustainability project, and sustainability means everything, right? It means wildlife, biodiversity, air quality, energy, food, waste, recycling, whatever. If you're doing any kind of community project, and that could mean with your members, or that could mean with your community in terms of access. But if you're doing a kind of community project and it's around sustainability, then I should highlight that this spring, we are launching a network for the region of England. So anyone who is the project lead or the founder or CEO of either a community sustainability organization, social enterprise, charity, group, club, whatever, or is the project lead on that project within that other a different organization, but it's community sustainability, then you can join the Community Sustainability Support Network for England for free and basically be networked into a bunch of other amazing people across the region who are trying to do the same but different all over the place. And we all have common challenges. We all have common, hopes and aspirations. And what better thing than to come together and share our video case studies and our impact data and our templates and our blueprints and our guidelines and how we negotiated the terms of that lease with each other, and also those opportunities to collaborate on funding bids and collaborate on research projects and collaborate on, amazing sort of delivery or campaigns. And so that's what the network is for, to bring people together, to share learnings and opportunities to collaborate on bids for funding, for research, to collaborate on delivery, and then finally to have a bit more of a voice with government and with funders, because all of us at the grassroots were doing these amazing projects, but a lot of people who are writing the rules and the policy and the legislation and deciding the taxation and deciding what local government will do and national government will do, a lot of these people have absolutely no idea of the vast range of impacts that community spaces and community sustainability projects are having on the well-being, the economy, the loneliness, the mental health, the community resilience, community adaptability of where they're based. Not just the environmental impact, not just the impact on business, but there's so many more impacts. So if we're, as a network, we're going to ensure that there is a voice to government policymakers so that A, they know the impact, and B, they know what challenges we're facing and what the opportunities are, so that there is more collaboration and there is more sort of alignment in terms of when they're deciding what changes are coming up, they at least have in mind what impacts we're having and what the challenges are and what the opportunities are when they're writing the next set of, legislation, taxation, or whatever it is, kind of thing.
So in that segment there, there's like what was kept on going, and even before we started recording, is a good example actually is back in 2019, the London Co-working Assembly, we kind of got hooked up with Urban MBA, and we just kept doing stuff with Urban MBA because then all our focus was in how could we do that. And before that, like, it's not that we don't want to help other people, but so many people would come and say, we do like an hour here and a day here, and it wouldn't do stuff. And then like over 6 years, there's so many, I don't want to list them all out because there's a podcast, not a epic movie like Waterworld, but so many things have come out of that. And like a seed was planted in 2022 and it came to fruition. Thank goodness I could say that. Came to fruition in 2024. And then it had a knock-on effect, and people who were at the beginning of it have evolved and they can, develop this ecosystem. And nearly everything you said there is like, I have been the person going, I've got all this stuff in my drawer and I don't know where to take it. And I can't be bothered I know that's terrible. I can't be bothered to Google it or go and walk around. When I was in Mainyard Studios, I had like a drawer full of dead iPhones and stuff like that. And that was a long time ago, don't worry. And so my wife knows where these things are, so she'll go, oh, just take it to that place there. But, I have to be told where to take it. And if someone had been in main yard saying we're doing this, and the fridge, I ran a co-working space in Euston, and we spent so much time running that fridge, and we liked doing it. It wasn't like but it was such a lot of, there was 2 people running this co-working space, me and Phil, and running the fridge seemed to take a quarter of our time. And if someone like you had turned up and gone like, this is how it happens. And I've met so many people who either run a co-working space or a member of a co-working space, or they're trying to get something going, or someone says, we'd like to I was just talking to someone before this. They said, we'd like to donate a desk to someone and we don't know who. And if they were in I've got to read it because I'm going to mess it up, Community Sustainability Support Network, they would just be able to go, does anyone in this borough need this? And it would so the point I'm trying to make here, as you probably guess, is like, it just speeds things up. And anything to do with policy, or like we have the whole rates fiasco going on, and Jane at Flexa deals with that because I'm not a policy talk to government type of guy, and I wouldn't be inauthentic to say I've outsourced it to her, but like I point everyone in that direction because she has 6 years at least of knowledge on that, and it just will happen much smoother. I'm really emphasizing the point there, folks, because getting involved will save you a lot of mental energy and help you connect with people in your local area. What do we have to do to get involved? And is there anything else you want to say about that thing?
No, basically just that you don't need to be a environmental organization to join. All that you need to do is have some sort of community sustainability project, or, part of your space is for community sustainability, or like you guys had a community fridge, or someone's got a repair cafe there once a month or whatever. So if you're running a project like that, then you can join, and it's that project. And what happens is it's also your project or your space will, as long as it's got that element, will go on the map and we'll have a profile which will be made public. And then there'll be a members only area where people can see more detail, like if you're up for doing tours or mentoring people, or, up for collaborating on funding bids. And then also a space where you can share in, oh, this is the video of the, community fridge that we ran, or this is the repair cafe for neurodiverse parents, or whatever it is that you've done. All of that will be in there. So people are sharing their sort of real world experiences with each other, and something that people can just pick up with and run and try out their own. And also it makes it much easier for you if you're trying to persuade let's say your partner or your trustees or your council to enable you to have more space for that, repair cafe element of your space or whatever it is, or for you to trial it. If you can already go, look, and this is how they did it in Dulwich, and this is how they did it in Brixton, this is how they did it in Cornwall at this, this place or this place, and this is the impact it had, and these are some videos from it. And it makes it less scary when you're trying to pitch it. And also it just makes it more doable if you've got some people you can talk to, and, some templates and things that you can actually use.
That is absolutely true. The amount over the years, just like I've got a Google Drive full of stories like Greener and Cleaner and fridges in things and music groups and co-op, and I just send them to people and go, look, these 5 people did a pop-up co-working space and they did it like this. And I don't think they even read the whole thing. They just see it's happened 5 times and they believe it, And it's not like I'm trying to pull a fast one. You have to show, don't tell, which I'm sure all the people listening to this do. Where can you say before we go, actually, something I want you to talk about for 3 seconds, maybe 4, is the Library of Things is one of the best. I know it's in other co-working spaces, and I've known Rebecca since she kicked it off 15 years ago, was it? It was a long time.
Yeah.
It's one of the best things on the face of the planet, and it's gone the distance. How does that work? And we can put a link in the show notes to get to it, but that is really important.
I think it's a really powerful thing. So we wanted to get one in Bromley for ages. You had to raise, I think at the time it was £35,000 or £40,000. It might be more now, I can't remember. In the end, we managed to persuade the council's carbon management team to use the carbon reduction fund, not the SIL fund, the carbon reduction fund. But sometimes people can use the SIL, Section 106 funding or the SIL funding, to put that in, because the Library of Things can provide you with the exact stats on how much carbon tonnage it will reduce, the fact that people are borrowing rather than buying new. So that's how we got it funded, basically. And essentially it's a load of lockers, and inside it is all brand new tools, DIY equipment, that sort of thing. There's ice cream makers and projectors, there's gazebos, but there's also pressure washers, drills, ladders, carpet cleaners, thermal imaging cameras. We were on the ITV last week and BBC the week before because of our energy project and the thermal imaging cameras that go with that. So basically people can get access to trade quality tools because the Library of Things has a deal with people like Crochet and Bosch, etc. So they get trade level equipment. They have their staff trained up, their engineers are trained up to maintain those from scratch from the beginning, and they're insured from the beginning. So you have items that are brand new coming in, really trade quality, because usually if you were going to buy it, you'd buy the cheaper one, right? And then you don't have to store it, you don't have to insure it, you don't have to maintain it, it's not going rusty somewhere, it's not leaking somewhere. And then if you need it again, you go back and borrow it. And they have a regular rate and they have a concession rate. And even to use the concession rate, people don't have to prove they're a student or prove they're on benefits. If you are struggling for whatever reason, and actually a lot of people with jobs who would never normally fall under a concession rate are really struggling right now, then you can use the concession rate. And basically the little bits of money that come in for the borrowing of those items just to basically help cover the maintenance of those items, essentially. And so a guy comes once a week, once every 10 days or so, with his bike and his tools, and comes and fixes them. And it's a great thing to have. So you just need to have accessibility. People need to be able to get to it by public transport and with a car, because some things are heavier. And so you do need a car to get them home. And you need to be able to show the footfall that enough people will see it and get access to it to make it worthwhile. And I think, the Library of Things themselves can provide the data that helps you make that argument in terms of persuading the council to help fund it, or persuade investors to help fund it, because it does bring footfall in itself to our community hub. For example, our community hub's open 5 days a week, 10 till 6, and it has about 1,300 visitors a month. And I'm sure, a portion of those visitors, I can't tell you quite how many, but definitely a portion of those visitors come in purely for the Library of Things and then end up engaging with other things.
Definitely.
So it's a really good way to introduce people to your space, basically.
I said definitely, like I stand in Bromley and have the data, but I've seen so many things that get people into a building. When we had the Euston space, people would come in on the train to Euston and they'd Google what meeting room near Euston. They come to our little basement, that looked like something out of a Quentin Tarantino film, and go, oh, we didn't know this was a co-working space. I thought it was a meeting room. And then over time, there was probably only 15 people, but they would come in, and then they book a desk, and then they book a meeting room, and then it was that one thing to get them in the building. And that Library of Things thing is something people who are outside your usual kind of, they probably wouldn't be on your newsletter, but they find you because of the Library of Things. And that, I would argue, I hope this is true, that when people spend that money on Library of Things, it stays in the community. Whereas if you go and, buy it on Amazon, it doesn't stay in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that money it doesn't go to us as the host. It goes to the Library of Things, and the Library of Things charge very little. So that money just goes to wash its own face. It goes to maintain those units and the website, and the local guy who comes in and fixes it, basically maintains it, make sure that everything's in good condition. And I'd heard about places where you can hire DIY equipment, other bigger places, like commercial places, and the attention to detail of these guys as a charity that are charging very little money, but in terms of maintenance and making sure the stuff's good quality and it's working brilliantly and they're accessible by phone all the time and all that sort of stuff, is way above any of the commercial big old operators that are out there, sort of thing. So yes, I think the service you get is amazing, and the money is not there. It's not profit making. It's there just to cover its own costs, essentially. So it is keeping it within the community. So
if I was to come and look at the Library of Things in Greener and Cleaner in Bromley, how would we're going to put links in the show notes, but can you shout out to how to get there, nearest station,
Oh, so the community hub is in the Glades Shopping Centre in Bromley. It is upstairs near Waterstones and HMV. Can you believe HMV is still there? And you go to Bromley South train station, or otherwise Bromley North or Shortlands. But Bromley South is the biggest main train station, and it's a 5-minute walk from there. There's loads of buses nearby, and obviously you can drive. There's, it's Bromley, one of the biggest car owners of all the London boroughs. So there's big parking above there as well. And Contingent Works, which is where I'm based now, which is what you and Buck runs, which is amazing, is just opposite the Glades. So if I look outside of this door, we're looking at the Glades. It's very, very easy to find. And most people who've lived in Southeast London know the Glades Shopping Centre.
It's a legend place. It's the more important than anything we've said in this podcast. Contingent Works is a shrine to Bowie and the Bromley Contingent. And I'll put a link to that in the show notes too.
It is. We're all big music lovers down in Southeast London, and especially big Bowie lovers.
Yes. So yeah. Everything, you see, then we've got to go because I'm rabbiting now. Everything leads back to Brian Eno, because Brian Eno did the Falls to John Alexander. Brian Eno lived in Berlin with Iggy Pop and David Bowie. And when we moved here in 2022, randomly, Iggy Pop was doing a gig in the marina. So we sort of stood on top of the shopping centre here and looked into the marina and could see Iggy Pop doing Lust for Life. And then my favourite song from lockdown is by Fred Again, called We Lost Dancing. And Fred Again was in a drumming workshop run by Brian Eno because they live in the same neighbourhood. So there we go. And Brian Eno hangs out with Gary Economics. That's enough. Anyway, where can we find you online? What's the best place to keep in touch with you and keep up with your news? And what's the best place to find? Probably greenerandcleaner.com, isn't it? But say it.
So Greener and Cleaner. And then find me on LinkedIn. So it's Parisa Wright, but my details will be in there. It's Paris with an A at the end and then WRIGHT. And then also you can email me on Parisa, Parisa, at greenerandcleaner.co.uk, and we can send you some more information. And soon we will have the CSSN, the Community Sustainability Support Network for England website up and running as well. And that will be cssnengland.co.uk. That won't be up and running until I'd say end of March, April time. But yeah, greenerandcleaner.co.uk. You've got my details. I'll put in all the links into wherever we're going to put them into, and there'll be videos and links galore in there.
And we'll put, if you sign up to the London Co-worker and send me a newsletter, we will send around the CSSN, something like that important new network that, launching. Really appreciate your time today. Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll put all that in the show notes. And if you go to the LinkedIn co-working group, we're posting that there. And on May the 19th, we're doing Unreasonable Connection live at Space 4, which is the mighty, outlandish co-op space. I think it's right saying it was the first affordable workspace program in Islington and has been going, I think it was 2018 it launched. So it's a very, 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 very special place. And also European Co-working Day is coming up sometime in May, but I've forgotten the date, so I'm not going to say it now, but there'll be a link in the show notes. Say goodbye.
Thank you.